feel like I'm seeing AI all over my news feed now, like Chat GPT, anything having to do with AI art. Like I feel like it's just kind of all over my news feed now. So your kind of background. So I'm with Adil. Adil is
Yeah,
currently studying in Japan, right? And what part of Japan are you studying?
yeah, it's the Nara prefecture, which comes in Osaka.
Okay,
So like in Japan, it's mainly like Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto. These are like the past capitals.
sure,
The first one was Osaka, then it moved to Kyoto, then from Kyoto to Tokyo.
sure.
Yeah, where I live, it's mostly a bit student oriented or academic part. So, like the idea of Japan is it's quite, a lot of people and
Yeah,
street and a lot
small
of
area.
discipline. Yeah, yeah. So if you go to Nara city or like for example Ikoma city or some other places, you can see people. But where I live, there it's not that many people
Yeah,
because
cool.
again it's given. Yeah.
That's
So
good. You don't want to be too packed up. And so you're on a research grant right now, right? From a
yeah.
Swedish research.
No, it's Japan. It's like the education ministry. It's called MEXT.
Okay,
So they are funding me for the research, and at
awesome.
the
And
same time, I get the opportunity to get a master's degree.
yeah,
Uh,
awesome. And so and you recently just got published, right? Congratulations on that.
yeah,
What was the
thanks.
publish about?
Yeah, so before coming here, I was you know doing research, and I was a visiting researcher in Autonomous Distributed Systems Lab, which is in Umeå University, Sweden. So I
Okay.
was there almost a year, I guess. So there I was mainly working on anomaly detection in network using machine learning algorithms and whatnot. We were trying to explore. So the first work that got published was reinforced transformer learning for it's one of the type of VSI DDoS detection. So it's a kind of a DDoS detection attack detection, but it's called very short intermittent DDoS. So usually in DDoS, what happens is like there are a lot of service requests. For example, you have an app or website. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make some bots, or I'm gonna control few computers in the network, and I'm gonna ask them to target you and send all the requests. So what's gonna end up happening is you will have an overflow of inward network, and your service time will go low. And this type of attack, I think, happened. One of the famous one is like via mail. So it happened whenever one person opens a mail, it sends tens and another 10 mails to other person. So it becomes multiplicative. So there are lots and lots of mails, and your server might go down. But nowadays, with the boom of cloud technology and everything, uh, the attackers are also getting a bit wise. I don't know how to say
Right.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
Yeah.
getting better at detecting
Yeah,
the
so what
safety.
nowadays they don't try to attack such that your network behavior changes. They try to remain under the hood and try to behave like a natural traffic. But the problem is, it's like if you don't cross the threshold, your traditional way of detection won't catch you. So
Wow.
what? Yeah, they just try to occupy like 20%, the 30% of your, for example, server resources. So
Right.
you will think it's a legitimate,
It's a
but
low.
it's all organized. So it's
Yeah.
that's why it's called very short intermittent. So they just they know it's like burst, and they try to put that traffic,
Yeah.
and it's all about timing. So
Right.
that's why
And
they're
just to kind of clarify and simplify for some of the people that may not know a lot about networking in general, with DDoS attacks, like you said, you're trying to overstimulate the resource, put too many response requests all at once,
yeah.
overload it, and therefore shut it down. And this is a cybersecurity hacking way of trying to either steal information from a broken, security system, or whatever it is.
Yep.
And so this is not a new form of attack, but as our networks get bigger and faster with 5G and with 6G, you're saying that these hackers are now just finding new and even cleaner ways of infiltrating your network to then create an organized attack, essentially, it sounds like.
Exactly. And recently, I've also working on one of the projects which mainly works on TCP and reinforcement learning. The problem is attackers is also, they were aware of this AI
Right.
advancement.
Yeah.
So it's not that only the defenders, it's
Yeah.
the gem is also with the attackers. So they are also trying to come up with new type of attacks with reinforcement learning and a lot
Oh,
of stuff.
wow. Oh my gosh.
So
So that's what's crazy is originally we use rules basically, right? Like, hey, if one particular request comes in too many times in a short period, and this is the rate, this is the rule, that the speed limit. If they go past the speed limit, shut it down, right? And they were
yeah.
like, okay, well, that's fine. We can just bypass the speed limit, stay under it until our moment of attack. And then when we're ready. And so this is why it seems to me machine learning is such a good solution for this kind of detection. Like why is machine learning so much better than just, the traditional rules that we're trying to set?
The like overall statement might not be true exactly at the moment, because there are certain stuff which are much more rigid, and they have to be, you have to have some kind of a rule-based system which is still in existence. But the thing is, when you have enormous amount of entities in your system, it becomes very difficult for a rule-based system to comprehend all the possibility that might happen. So in that case, you're better off with a system which can learn by itself, as well as it can it can learn from its past behaviors. You don't have to have an expert degree or have to have an expertise in that field to be
Mhm.
able to do it. So that's where it comes from. Like, one of my colleagues is working on credit card fraud, for example. So most of our credit card systems are like OTP based, or like, yeah, some kind of stuff.
Right.
Now they are also thinking about game theoretic approach or behavioral approach. So if your behavior doesn't match to your your particular profile, it's gonna raise a red flag. So
Right.
those are all things are going on. But I get it. Like, for example, for a regular person who is not dealing with this kind of stuff, they're most probably using the plastic credit card, but they don't know what's flagging those, for example.
Yeah. And
So
that's the thing, is a lot of these seem like they're, traditionally human-based things where it's like, if you have an abnormal, location that you're suddenly spending money at, it'll
yeah,
a flag a human, and then a human will do the review. But with AI, it seems like we can kind of automate that a little bit more, and especially at higher, volume, like you were saying. So that's super cool. And so who are some of the, I guess, major clients, users, people who are most interested in the type of research that you're doing in production, that are hoping to actually be able to apply this kind of security technology?
like, I think we had collaborations with, like, one of the giants called Ericsson. So they mainly deal with, like, their competitor is most probably Huawei and other
Wow.
vendors, which, yeah. So the thing is, in Ericsson, they already rolled out the 5G, and current my research is on 6G, for example.
Wow.
um yeah. So yeah, we have lots. Most probably I shouldn't, the problem with me is, if I delve into a particular topic, I'm gonna keep going on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you are there to check on me for that one.
No, it's
Like,
okay.
yeah. So those are the big giants first. But the thing is, where I see the thing where we can create the most effect is, like, for a small scale vendor. For example, if I have a pizza shop, if I have some kind of certain kind of traditional way of doing a business. So we still rely on all those old school way of doing stuff, which is all in good. But the problem is, all those big giants will be able to take advantage of these technologies, but we are not being able to offer those things to the mass, or most probably the ones who can, maybe in a month they can add $1,000 or something in the extra revenue, which is going to be helpful if you look at the bigger
Mhm.
theme. So I think all of the research that we are doing, most probably those are funded by the governments, like big entities, or by different research organization, or private research funds, as well as public companies and whatnot. But eventually, the advancements, those are going to come. For example, in terms of, we talk about NLP, right?
Mhm.
So even though we know that virtual assistant products are struggling a bit, I think Amazon already cut the funding for
Or Alexa.
Yeah, for
Yeah, I
Alexa.
heard that yesterday too. That's crazy.
Yeah, Google is not doing it because I also use a Nest Mini. So the thing is, even though it doesn't have a very human capable capability, but the problem is it makes your life so easy. It's like I go to bed, I don't have to
Yeah,
turn off my lights. Or for
yeah,
example, in the morning, I say I'm up, and it tells me what's the temperature,
that's
what's
cool.
outside, and it starts telling me the news. So even though I do mainly like 5, 6 works, like task, or increase the volume, decrease the volume, stop it, pause it, or something, it's
Right.
very popular in the market, and it's
Yeah.
very convenient.
And I think too, utility and functionality matter a lot when it comes to this thing because Alexa was not necessarily overly utilitarian. It can order stuff for you, but that's not that useful. When you order things online, you want to see it. Things that are
Yeah,
utilitarian that I see with natural language being super useful with home specific devices is like turn on and off my lights, increase or decrease the air conditioner, like change the airflow, turn on a fan, like being energy efficient and being more convenient, preheat the oven, start my car,
yeah,
like things that I just physically don't want to have to do, and I would rather use a voice control. But using it to I don't know, suggest a even a restaurant, that's kind of like really random, I think, or really it's not necessarily something that an AI should be. We don't want to over automate, over engineer our lives. I think it's about what's mostly helpful, and that's what's really going to be.
yeah. But I think they're mostly struggling because they they rolled out the hardware device and the software and everything, but their revenue collection, the model is not based on the service that they are trying to provide. So they're spinning up those servers quite a lot.
Yeah.
Um, all other, like for example, I use YouTube or Spotify on those devices, so they are not connected. So it's like in a smartphone most probably, and that's how they connect, but they don't get any kind of revenue. So
Yeah.
I think that's where they're struggling. I might not be correct. But to
Yeah.
come back to your question, which is like what kind of businesses can advantage can have advantage from these things, is definitely the big scale companies who are already funding. They're going to be benefited from this kind of proprietary technology they're going
Yeah.
to have. But those technologies, for example, you are going to roll out. For example, few big startups that I know of, they are working on some kind of AI driven service where what you can do, for example, if you're a tailor, then what you can do, you can take the pictures and upload those samples. So
Mm.
what they are trying to do, they are trying to minimize the technical expertise that you need. So a layperson can also upload some images and then automate those stuff and do the detection, classification.
Yeah.
Um, for example, right now, earlier, if you think about it, it's like when at the beginning of website era. Okay, so you needed a exactly very expert person to
Right.
write your HTML or
Yeah.
CSS or upload it. But right now you have a lot of drag and drop websites,
Right.
and you
No
don't have
code
to worry.
builders.
So that's what it's happening right now. That's what I feel.
I see that. I can see that too, especially with just the specialization of different AI models. And that's where, the discussion of something like Chat GPT comes in, or Whisper, which was released by Google not too long ago. Like all these types of models seem to be, moving towards something. And I don't really know what that something is. I don't really know what the new
It's very
level
difficult
of
to say.
computing is going to be, but yeah.
I don't think we will like converge towards something, but it's gonna be mostly, we'll be able to use this kind of advancements in all of our lives. So it's gonna be more easier in terms of what we're doing or trying to make put effort into. So the specialization thing will be centralized, and then you will have a lot of work which can be done. Uh, but yeah, the advancements and things are happening, it fascinates me, and that's why like I'm in this kind of field. So
Yeah.
let's hope for the best. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so talking about, let's say for one, let's talk about developers that are wanting to get into machine learning and they're wanting to, kind of ride this wave. And because I know for a fact that web development, like you said, used to be super, super lucrative. It used to be very, very good way to get specialized and get, make a lot of money doing this. But now it's very, very saturated. There are things like Wix and Bubble and all these different tools that allow you to do, you don't need to know how to write code necessarily, or not extensively, to be able to accomplish a lot of this. Now, I will say it does make your efficiency go up a lot when you know those things, but nonetheless, on the AI side and the machine learning side, where do you think developers who are currently, like, let's say they're focused in web development, where should they really start putting their focus and looking for opportunities that you think is going to make them the most marketable for these roles?
Yeah, so when we talk about like marketable, and you want to, stay in the field for a long time, and you want to make something out of yourself such that you can start earning as well. So we have to align the market demand as well as your interest in some ways, right? So if you're very good at web development, designing stuff and all these things, maybe you are a full stack developer. At the same level, if you want to shift your career or something, or you want to know more stuff, um, like maybe the basic research in AI might not be the first thing that you want to do. Rather, you would focus on, start using the libraries that you have at your exposure, or try to try out some tools, try out some conventional way of doing AI, try to tweak them here and there, and that way you will have a much more idea like what's going on. Then you can have a deeper dive into how it's working, or like the core principle of something that's working, for example. And then most probably you will find a niche in that area. For example, if you are a web developer, you like NLP, you can make a product which is which can take advantage of language models or some NLP task, and you can make a simple API or with an interface which can improve. Like, for example, right now in Notion, if we think about it, right? So they have a tool where you just start writing, and it starts guessing your sentence. And you mentioned earlier, I think, about this kind of stuff as well. So those things, for example, you have to know, if you know web development and you are trying to get into those kind of stuff, so everything comes together, and as a whole, if you have the understanding, you will be better in terms of developing those kind of products. So again, it depends on your what kind of interest, or where you find your niche.
Yeah.
But in AI, you have like tons and tons of fields to look into.
And what do you think is really the big bottleneck right now when it comes of, because we have the big companies that are investing in this type of research, but there's a lot of smaller companies that are maybe independent investment advisors in the financial space. They're, smaller medical practices that want to be able to take advantage of these different types of advanced machine learning, insurance companies that want to do risk management, like all these different, applications that maybe they're not at $1 billion company level yet, but they still want to be able to take advantage of it. Where do you see most of these companies looking and really focusing on the adoption?
Yeah, so right now what I see is like you have those big giants and grants given to the universities, as well as, like, for example, independent research organizations, which are large, good ones. And then you have the market demand of big giants, as well as at the same time we have the market demands of, like, startups and all other people who are trying to get into that space. So this gap is quite large. So what I can see is some kind, like, intermediate startups who are going to build their career in terms of placing themselves in the middle. It's like they're going to take advantage of the already researched papers, or like build foundations and everything. Basic research has been done, and they can take advantage of those things and reuse them, and can facilitate other small scale or medium scale businesses.
And that's
So
what I mean. That's what I mean is with obviously, if they're not going to go from being a starting web developer, they don't know anything about machine learning, to they're doing research like you are on 6G threat, DDoS attacks, all that crazy stuff that you're doing. So that being said, though, if I want to find the most probable way of actually getting a job as a practical machine learning engineer, what should I really be thinking about learning, and what are the skills that are going to be needed to do those things that you're talking about, where I want to take pre-trained, already researched stuff and apply it towards, the problems that companies are looking to solve?
Yeah, I think one of the skill that I will emphasize on, like before I came into research or any kind of like, when I was initially starting my career in dev, for example, um, I found reading is very difficult. Like it's annoying for me. For example, I would watch a video and just try to learn that thing and start doing it. But the problem with this kind of research or AI, supposed to be, you need to read a lot. For example, you need to read for that topic, you need to go through a paper, you need to conceptualize that idea and implement it. You need, like, first, I would suggest that the skill that you need, for example, one technical paper you are going to read, and you have to be able to reproduce that result. So it's one of the, I mean, like, I have friends in industry as well as a lot of friends in academia as well. So for both of them, first thing which is very common, which I have seen, is this one. So you need to know when you read a technical blog, because when you read a blog or something, sometimes it's oversimplified, sometimes it's cryptic. But as a developer, we grow the skill of being able to read something, interpret it, and write it in a language. Um, Most probably we have to uplift that one a bit more and able to read a patent, or for example, a paper, as I already said. And on top of that, you can reproduce the results. Once you are able to reproduce the results, it's same to, like, how we start to read, write, or compose. So first we read stories written by other people, how to construct a sentence. After that, it's like copying. Then we get to do our composing, for example. So I think first you need that skill done. And in terms of tools, like the machine learning tools, there are a lot of platforms you can learn those from. And it depends on what kind of learning you like. There are, like, for example, there's educative, they mainly do text based learning, and while you are reading, you do the typing. And there is Pluralsight, and there is YouTube. Those are mostly, you have videos, you look through it. It again depends on, like, for example, if I'm traveling, I might not be able to read and write code and do the thing. So it again depends on your profile and what kind of, how you want to learn those skills.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that makes sense. And so just kind of finishing up here, moving, we're 2 days left in 2022. We're about to go into 2023. There's been a good amount of innovation, I think, this year in machine learning. What's one that stands out to you? What do you think is like a big kind of like breakthrough in AI that you think will make a big impact?
Like, the major upgrade that happened was mostly the adversarial one, the GAN. But it's not again in 22 per se. But I think NLP is one of the thing that's happening, and I would say that's the one I would go for now. But
Cool.
there are a lot of stuff already in the pipeline, which is happening also in
Yeah,
terms
that's
of
what I was going to
6G.
ask next. Is in the next year, what do you see just from what you kind of heard and what you get to see? What do you think, is going to be one of the most exciting things upcoming that we get to, that we're trying to solve right now? That task orientation or something like that.
Mhm. I think there will be a lot of adoption from the mid-range companies to small companies adopting this kind of AI technologies, which are already being used and taken advantage of by big companies and giants. I think that's going to be a bit of revolution in its own terms. Apart from that, because I'm working in 6G, and it's like it takes a 1 decade of work to roll out a next phase of
Yeah.
technology. So I
Right.
can speak about that one a bit. So recently 5G was standardized and everything is there. But starting, I didn't know, wireless technology, network technology, all those are different things. So I think in that area as well, there will be quite a lot of advancements. I have read some of the papers or posts about recent development in antenna technologies. And uh, and in 6G, the AI is going to play a huge role. In 5G, it's already there. It's like
Mm.
in slicing and mobility, there are certain concepts where AI is one of the major thing which takes care of a lot of stuff and automates thing. But 10, 20 years back, most probably researcher will never think that in communication technologies, AI can be can play that much of a big role. But
Yeah.
today, it's a practicality, and things are happening.
Yeah. I
Already.
mean, and that's the thing is 5G sounded crazy a couple years ago, and now it's
Yeah.
pretty much commonplace amongst most of the carriers, and now we're moving on to a 6G. So it sounds to me like the world is just going to get more interconnected. Honestly, like it sounds like
Yeah.
we're going to have
Yeah.
faster access to data, and more of the world will have access to more data, essentially.
Exactly. But again, at the suburbs or rural areas, most probably those advanced technologies might not be a profitable option. But again, it's gonna be mostly, you won't need it either, because in the city or like, hub areas, you will have those kind of connectivity. And then when you go for recreational or some other plans, you can have your conventional way of connecting 3G, 4G, for example, those kind
Mm.
of connectivity. Um, but it's very exciting,
Yeah. How
having
far do
that.
you think we are from like what Elon Musk is saying with SpaceX, where we really just want there to just always be internet available? It doesn't really matter where you are. You can connect to the internet.
See, in terms of technology, we're already there, right?
Okay.
But but the thing is, it's all about, like, it also comes up with responsibility. We have a lot of bureaucracy. We have a lot of government organization, they have to agree with stuff. It's also, we have a border, like, even if we were to be a global community, most probably, if you had a it's a very, very provocative statement, but if we
Yeah,
had
that's
one.
and so yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so it seems like a lot of it is definitely intentional. I mean, there's definitely countries that want to keep connection away from certain parts of the internet.
Yeah.
So I mean, overall, do you think it would be a good thing or a bad thing if there was just readily available internet no matter where you were?
I think it will come up with how you try to mitigate the attack scenario, or like the bad part of it. So it's going to entirely depend on your strategy, as well as, like, how you try to bring it to life. It's like, if it's unprotected, then it's going to be a problem. If you protect with all the shields that you can, and you do it properly, then you can, safeguard the main, like, your users from the culprits, for example.
All right.
So that's where it's gonna. I see the, key role of making any technology feasible and better for human, for welfare.
Yeah, it
To be
makes
specific.
sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
But in terms of technology, we're already there, bro. We can do it. We just need installations. We have all the technologies. We can make things happen. But again, it's not that easy. It's easier said than done. For
Sure.
example.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Adil, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate your insight on all this
No
stuff. I
worries.
think
Thank
it's
you.
super, super cool. And we should do it again sometime for sure.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.